Hi, and welcome to this edition of the Mormon Meat Locker. I'm Cable the Party Jenkins, and I have my co-host Caroline Kingsley here with us. And tonight we're joined by Sariah Simmons.
Hello.
Hey, Sariah, thanks so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for us in the singles world?
Okay, so I have been divorced now for a little over 7 years, and I discovered the mid-singles scene about 5 years ago, and then about 6 years ago I joined my first YSA board. And with the mid-singles that I started to meet and get to know, I started planning parties. That's how I met Cable. Back in Las Vegas, we planned parties, we had conferences, we started setting up mid-singles boards. And then I continued to do similar stuff when I moved to California, and I've done events all over the country, from Duck Beach to Huntington Beach and several places in between. And just really am passionate about helping LDS singles connect. After I had been in Texas right after my divorce for a couple of years in Louisiana, which is like a desert for singles. Moving to Las Vegas and the West Coast was like finding an oasis, and I wanted to do the best I can to try and help people all across the country to connect to us that are so connected. I mean, you and Cable are both part of that, and really connected with a lot of people, and try and help out a lot and help people connect. And I think that that's amazing and great in what we can do to help each other.
I love that. And I've told people, especially with Zion's coming up as we're about to talk about, but I've loved all the activities, all the events that you've done. I feel like really well organized, well planned, meet amazing people. And so tell us about the Zion's trip that's coming up.
Okay, so we have a trip coming up for LDS singles ages about 25 to 45-ish. And then we also have a second event in Zion for 35 plus the weekend before. It's in April. The main trip is April 21st to the 24th, and then the 35 plus for a slightly older crowd is April 16th, the weekend of April 16th. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and we are renting out cabins at a ranch in Zion, where we will stay and we will cook and sleep and eat and have fun and socialize. But in addition to that, we have a bunch of hikes, we have canyoneering, we'll have activities, we'll have, there'll be ATVs, we have people offering plane rides to see Zion in the air, we will have a dance, we'll have an acoustic night, we even have one of our friends who is putting together an event called the Grailer, who's going to do a mini Grailer at Zion's, and it'll be like an adventure treasure hunt. So there's lots of different activities to help you meet, mingle, and break we expect about 250 people to come, and break those 250 people into smaller groups so that you can get intimate and get to know each other, and you're interacting, right? Like, I've been to plenty of conferences and different activities where you sit and you're listening to somebody, but you're not really getting that interaction. And so every activity I do, I try to design around the things that create engagement, that give you opportunities to serve one another, to talk to one another, and going back to one of our previous podcasts, to actually do activities that produce oxytocin to help you bond. I think that's much more effective than just going to a dance or going to, say, a conference where you sit in a church and listen to speakers for the majority of it. So I think it's a really great way to meet. I met both of you that way.
Well, and that's what I was about to say too, that the thing I really love about the trips is, like, and I do love going to the dances, and some of the house parties are fun, but it's kind of hard to get to know people sometimes. And this gives you a whole weekend plus to be able to really get to know people throughout the weekend. So by the time it's over, you feel like you've made it like a ton of new friends.
Yes. I have a lot of friends on Facebook, and I get asked a lot, do you actually know them? And the majority I've met at some point at these, and you get to know people when you are because we do all of our own cooking and cleaning as well. It's not like they're catered events or anything. We try and keep the cost down as low as possible. And so people have the opportunity to cook dinner next to somebody. You spend 35, 45 minutes cooking dinner with somebody. You get to know them on a level that you wouldn't get to know them on a dance floor or watching a movie or some of these other things. And all those, I mean, all of these activities build around each other and are great. But I think this is a really good way if you have 3 to 4 days to dedicate to getting outside your comfort zone and meeting new people.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the trip. I went to it last year, and I braved Angel's Landing, which wasn't as quite as scary as I thought it was going to be. When you're like, you find out you're going to be climbing up using a chain to get to the top. But it is, it's a great way when you're hiking with people, to have that kind of camaraderie and get to know them, their personalities that you would, like you said, a lot easier than like sitting next to them at something or just over dinner, which I love those too, but actually interacting with someone, doing an activity makes it so much more special. And then you carry those memories forever. And so I've been really looking forward to this trip because Zion's was one of my very favorite trips. And Tahoe being the other one, which you've done both of them. And so I appreciate it. And Tahoe is what brought me into the single scene. And then Zion's was probably my next one that I went to.
Yeah, there's lots of different activities, and there's other people who put on activities as well. But I think one of the things that's great within our scene is that we all kind of can diversify, and there's lots of different options available. There's PAL, there's Dead Beach, I've done Island Park, we've had, there's some people doing trips to Bali. Like, there's all different options out there to cater to you and your specific budget or needs. And so one of the things that's great about Zion is that it also gives us the opportunity to do camping. So there's camping options. So there's some people who either they just really like camping, they don't want to be in a cabin with people they don't know that well, or it financially fits their budget better. And then another thing that's unique to this trip is that we have a kids cabin. So I'm a single mom, and I know you're a single mom, Cable. You're not a
single mom. Represent.
He was an amazing single mom.
But Cable's great with kids. I've seen him interact with kids. He's been around my daughter before, and he's great with them. And so one of the things that's awesome about doing singles activities with kids is, one, the single parents that don't often get an opportunity to get out and meet new people, they get that opportunity. Two, the kids love it. My daughter's been talking about this trip for over a year now. She is so excited. And so when we were talking about having kids or not, I was like, my daughter will strangle me if I do not have kids at this trip, because that's all she can talk about. Because she gets to have fun. She gets to meet mommy's friends, right? She always hears about Cable and Caroline, and she knows all these people by name, but being able to spend the weekend helps her connect to my life. And then two, she gets to meet other kids who are in a similar situation. Like, I remember the first time we went to a mid-singles ward, a mid-singles magnet ward, and there were other kids there. And she came back and she was like, Mom, did you know that so-and-so doesn't like live with their mom and dad either? And she was so excited to meet other kids who were in a similar situation and could connect to her. Just like, we are excited to be able to find people that get us and connect to us. And then the third reason why I'm excited about the kids is because there's a whole lot of singles that don't have children yet, but that have so much love to give. And I love seeing them interact with the kids. I love seeing my daughter get to connect to them, and you kind of get to see, those who are ready for that next step in their life maybe, or they get a chance to love on somebody and get cuddles from somebody that they normally wouldn't. And it's just really a special place in my heart when I see singles without kids hanging out with singles with kids and all kind of taking care of that child or being around that child and giving them happiness together.
Well, and I think that, all of us that have kids, our kids are obviously such an integral part of our lives. And so trying to keep different aspects of our life so separate can be difficult and doesn't really make sense, because when we're interacting with people all the time and our kids aren't around, they're not really seeing our full selves. And it's nice to be able to integrate all of that. And Cable knows. He actually, my 6-year-old is Cable is her favorite person. And so Yeah, they definitely, my kids get to know my friends. And I think after the first, what, like an hour after my daughter met Cable, she was inviting him over to our house that night.
He's easily lovable.
He's
Cable,
very lovable. Anytime you want my Cable,
so
be a
Cable,
great babysitter.
he would.
Well,
Trust my daughter.
is there anything else that you want to talk about with Zion's before we can move on to our other topic?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Cable really fast to give his perspective of Zion's last year, and in particular with him not having children and being an event that had the majority of it's all singles, and then there was a small portion of it that were singles with kids, and what you thought about that as being somebody who doesn't have children. How did that feel to you?
Well, I think it's great for those opportunities. Like you said, there's opportunity for people with kids. Sometimes they can't get away to some of the trips, and so it allows them to go. You know, a lot of times I say, "Hey, are you going to this trip or this trip?" Well, I have my kids, and with this, I'm able to say, "That's okay. Bring them along. Like, I'm sure they'll love it down there. Go hiking and do all that kind of stuff." And there's also the flip side of that. When we start looking at dating people, you know, you were talking about the ones who don't have kids and seeing how they interact. That's one part of it, and it's also seeing how, you know, a big part of dating is seeing how people treat their kids and things like that, discipline-wise and all that kind of stuff. So seeing how somebody treats their kids is kind of very telling of how they would treat, you know, someone they're in a relationship with and things like that. So I think there's a lot of things that you can see on both sides, whether you're the one with the kids there or you're someone who doesn't have kids, and you know, and then it's, you know, fun, you know, sometimes like last year we did the Zorb soccer ball thing, the big blow up balls running into each other, and like, you know, the adults, we were doing it and running around, and then you get tired, and then the kids all jumped in there and they were doing it and having a good time. And so, you know, it's fun just to watch them run around and things like that too. It's fun to see some of these kids who are a little bit older, you know, kind of get into the 10-year-old and teenage range, and some of them who are just super helpful. You know, and you can kind of look at these kids and see kind of what they're turning into and how, you know, being helpful and things like that. So when you see someone who's got a kid who's like that, it says a lot about that parent. So I think it's great to have opportunities like this where people can bring them and kind of in a safe environment, and be able to socialize as well as spend time with their kids. So.
Good. I'm glad that you were able to see the benefit to us and to you as well. So I have another event coming up in the summer where we're doing a cruise, and we're going to attempt to do a similar situation where you have singles, but then we found one of the cheapest cruises we could put together so that it'd be affordable for families as well, and we'll have kid activities. That'll be in August. So trying to branch out and do more activities like that. So yeah, I'm excited about Zion's. Every day we keep coming up with new activities and new things that we're gonna have there. And so, you know, we'll have a NRA range safety officer who can possibly take people out if they wanted to go shooting. And we have a pilot who'll do airplane rides. We're gonna have ATVs. We'll have miniature golf. We'll have the cable club putting on our denim and diamonds dance. So really just trying to give everybody the most amount of value, and also provide basically a cheap vacation. I mean, it's hard to go out to any place for 3-4 days and have food and lodging included for less than $200. So I think that.
And I love all those activities, and they're super fun. My favorite part is just kicking back in the cabins, relaxing and talking and getting to know everybody. And that's about the last 5 years, I've done a lot of these trips, much like Sariah. And my favorite thing, and the thing that I found that really allows you to get to know people on a deep level, is going somewhere for a few days, staying in the same house or cabin or that type of environment with them. There've been people that I go there and from the minute I meet them, you have this instant bond. And so it's just a great opportunity to make some really good lifelong friends. Much like Caroline and I in the back of that minivan. Dirty, don't worry.
Wait, the minivan didn't compare to the cuddle bus, did it?
Well, it was fun. The cuddle bus, they both had their good things, but we didn't have to quite spend 24 hours in it, so that was the good thing.
Our epic journey to Huntington Beach. Yeah, the road trip was more memorable than the weekend.
Well, and I think that's a good point, though. I mean, just getting to the destinations, you can get to know people really well by just signing up for a carpool. I didn't know anyone when I decided to go to Tahoe. I hadn't done any LDS singles activities. I realized I needed to make more single LDS friends, and so I just picked a carpool. The first one was full. The second one was Morgan, and Cable texted me the night before. I was like, hey, are you still looking for a carpool? Are you okay? Because he's like super great at making sure everyone's all right. And we started chatting that night, and like just immediately connected. And then by the next morning, we felt like we're good friends. And by the time we got to Tahoe, we all left in the middle of the night. We left at midnight and drove there like a half a day before everyone. And we were all like completely bonded. I think everyone else actually knew each other. And so they took me on as a surprise. Never know not sure how this is going to go with Caroline, with this new girl. But I felt bonded to everyone by the time I got there. And to this day, they're pretty much, I consider them all really good friends.
I love to go on the carpools and pick somebody that I don't know. Most trips I do find somebody new to carpool with. I try to. My very first mid-singles activity was we drove from Las Vegas and we went to Huntington Beach for a dance, a New Year's Eve dance, and I didn't know a single person in the carpool. I had a friend of a friend that referenced me, and I am still great friends with the girls that I met in that carpool. In fact, I'm going to hang out with Julie tomorrow, and we met, as strangers at a carpool on our way to an event. And so I think it's just a great opportunity. And I think one of the things that I love to remind people is that these activities aren't about necessarily finding love, which a lot of people are like, oh, well, how many weddings come out of this or something. There's typically one or two weddings. I mean, there's always couples that come out. I mean, we already have a couple out of the Island Park event that I did just last month. But I think the main thing is making friends and making people that get you and meeting people that you can connect with. And I think it helps strengthen my testimony. Before meeting other mid-singles, I honestly questioned how I was going to be divorced and celibate. Like, I seriously was like, how is this possible? Sure, maybe a year, but like, how am I going to keep this going? And now I've been divorced for going on 8 years, and I don't know what kind of struggles I would have faced had I not met people that were a positive example to me. I met these amazing women and men that were divorced and struggling just like me, but they were doing it, and they were going to the temple, and they were talking about those kinds of like strengths that they got from that. And I was like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it. Like, we all have the same temptations, we all have the same follies, we all have the same weaknesses, or similar. And like, I just was so empowered by these people that told me that they struggled just as much as me, but they were making a good effort. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about helping singles now, is just trying to help people see that there's life after divorce. There's life after being a breakup. There's life after a broken engagement. There's like, if you've been single for a long time, there's happiness to be found. And there's lots of love out there, even if it's just love of friendship. I consider so many of the friends that I made through this journey as family.
I have a friend that just messaged me on Facebook a few days ago, childhood friend, known her since we were both 8, and she just told me she's going through divorce, or I think it just went through, and my heart just broke for her, and she was asking, like, what do I do now? I've seen that you've been in the LDS single scene, and can you tell me more about it? And I just told her that as like rough as it is to go through what you're going, it's the best time, I think, and the best time to be single, you know, in LDS, because you do, there, like you said, there is life after it, and there's so many opportunities for just meeting amazing people that you really don't have that same opportunity, I think, in other parts of your life. So it's a great, it's nice to be able to appreciate it while you have it. And like I've said in other podcasts, like I don't feel like it's a segue in between things. I think it's something to be cherished in itself. And I love like you putting on these activities, Cable that puts on amazing activities to give us this ability to make friendships. Another thing about, like you talked about helping spirituality, I actually was telling someone the other day about Zion's last year. A bunch of us went to sacrament at the local board, like we will often on these trips. And that was this day one of my very favorite sacrament meetings. What?
I said I just got goosebumps because I was reminded how that's like one of my favorite sacrament meetings ever, and it just totally touched me.
Yeah. Oh, and there was a local lady sitting next to me, and she leaned over afterwards and said that she had never been in anything that felt as spiritual as that did. And it wasn't that the people that got up from our group that they were perfect, but it was in the fact that they were real about it, and they had testimonies despite the challenges, despite their imperfections. And one guy talked about his experiences in jail and his spiritual experiences. And even though like I felt like I'd gotten to know people throughout that weekend, in that moment I was like just blown away by these amazing people in our midst, and just so grateful that I had been able to get to know them even a bit. And the nice thing about the trips are you do get to know people to an extent, and then it ends. And then, of course, we have Facebook, so you add them on Facebook, and then you start to see them at different activities, or you start to message them and get to know them on different levels. So it's like really just the beginning of these beautiful relationships.
It's true. Yeah. I think in life, it becomes more meaningful when we have people that we can connect with, you know, and it's like we connect. There's all these different facets of our life that we can connect with people on, right? So like at work, we can talk about whatever, like if you're an engineer or a lawyer, or doctor, whatever it is, at work you can have deep conversations about what it is you do for work that you're passionate about, and those people get you, right? At church you can kind of get the spiritual side, and you get all these things, but then when you get divorced or if you're single, where do you go that you can connect with people on that front, right? And that's kind of what the single scene does for you. And so that way, in every aspect of your life, you have people in different arenas that you can connect with. And a lot of times in the single scene, you can connect with people not only on that, but in multiple things. You may run into someone who does the same thing that you do, and you can talk about that, or you can talk about the gospel, and you can talk about kids and all these different things. And then you can also kind of delve down deeper, because you may have, you know, a friend who has kids, and you can talk about being a parent, but if they're married, there's some unique challenges that come with being a single parent that they're not going to understand. When you come to a singles event, you can then meet people who are in a similar place to you, and then you can really delve down on some of those unique challenges that you have, and that person understands you.
That's awesome. And I wouldn't be where I am with my career right now if it hadn't been for the single scene, for people I've met. You never know where those relationships will leave.
Yeah, I agree. The funny thing, though, is that as I'm in this scene more and more, I continue to get this question of like, well, you just really love being single. And there's this paradox of finding happiness in being single, and at the same time wanting to graduate from this. Like, yes, we find happiness in our situation, and we are rising above what some people let crumble them. But in that doesn't mean that we don't want to find a family, we don't want to find a spouse. We're still having that eternal perspective while we're still getting to uplift others. And I think that's where I'm able to find joy in the single scene, is helping other people rise. Like you said, your friend that, you know, was going through divorce. Like, when my friends go through divorce, I'm one of the first people they think to call, and I'm grateful that I'm able to help them in a way that somebody else might not be able to help them. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I love the single scene so much that I don't want to graduate to a family work, you know. And I think that's kind of where adding the service aspect to what we do really helps to stay out of like the whole meat market, and I'm just, focusing on the wrong attributes, or I love being single so much that I never want to leave, and just being reminded so many times of like, yeah, I'm here to help people for as long as I'm here. But hopefully maybe one day all three of us will meet somebody at the activities and events that we put on and we'll graduate and we'll pass the baton on to somebody else that's still single, and continue this legacy without having to be in it.
Well, and I think you and I, Sariah, maybe half joked, half serious, that maybe we won't meet that person or maybe we won't be able to graduate this until we've fulfilled our purpose that we're supposed to serve in the community. So we better do it.
Like this little orange carrot that's like, okay, I'm going to meet my husband more than likely at one of the events I put on or an activity I go to, but he's probably not going to show up until I've accomplished enough good.
Right.
So I get asked all the time, why do you keep doing this? And I'm like, because I'm pretty sure I have to find my husband by inviting him to one of my events.
It's a good reason to do it. Just as we're getting into some really good stuff, we're actually wrapped up on our time for this segment. But if you'd stick around, Sariah, we'll close this up and then we will start a part B that people can tune in. But we'll allow them a shorter segment into their busy lives.
Sounds good. So I'll post in the comments of this video as well a discount code for Zions, and it will be MML for the Mormon Meat Locker with the number 15 at the end for $15 off at the Zions chip, and that'll be good towards a floor spot. And I'll put more information in the group.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, Sariah. It was good. Again, we will have a part 2, which can be found on our Patreon account. So thanks, everyone, and we'll
Thanks, guys.